Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast where we discuss the challenges of staying healthy in today's modern, fast-paced world. I'm Tiffany Simms, your burnout recovery expert and holistic wellness coach. And today I am here with Sophie, who is joining us from the other side of the globe. She's in New Zealand, and we are going to have, let me rephrase that. If you have ever felt like there has to be more and that you're just running on this hamster wheel and never making progress in your health and you're just so exhausted, today's episode is going to be for you. Sophie and I share a very similar philosophy in how to overcome that. And so we're going to chat about that with you today. And with that, Soph, tell the people who you are, where you, like your origin story and all of that good stuff that makes you you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for having me here today and for bringing me to this bubbly space. I love it. I love it. So my name is Sophie Kate, and besides that, I'm a vitality and life coach. I'm also a mum. I'm an adventurer. I'm a joy seeker. I love to travel. I love to try new foods. Um, I love to learn. I love business. I love being a business owner. There's many things I love, and I think it's the things that I love that really define me. But what do I do in terms of my work? So I work with busy people who are essentially, as you said, running on the treadmill of their life, and they're just going and going and going, and their life might look great on paper, but somehow they're just not feeling fulfilled. They find themselves, doing all the things from morning till evening, but they don't really feel like they have enough time for themselves, or they don't really have enough time for the things that actually bring them joy and the people that are really important to them. So the clients that I work with, we really look at their life holistically. What's going on and how can we get them off that treadmill? Because often that's a big fear as well, to just even jump off the treadmill. Because if you jump off the treadmill, oh my gosh, the whole your whole life will fall apart. But how to get off the treadmill in a way that feels really safe and feels really good to them, and how they can then start making some different choices, and also look at some different perspectives that are really enriching, so they can have essentially more fun in their life. Because I honestly, truly believe life is for pleasure. We're
Yes.
here to have fun and enjoyment, and so many of us aren't having it, and I'm not having it. This has to change.
I'm not having it, not at all. I love it so much. And I'm curious, you were describing this very specific human, and I think a lot of us can identify ourselves in that person, which is like, i'm I'm busy, but I don't ever feel like I'm making progress. I'm
Yeah.
busy, so I don't have time to go to the grocery store to actually do this meal prep thing that people said I need to do because
Mm.
that sounds so complicated to learn something new. Was that your own story? Like, was that you at some point?
Is it that obvious? Yeah, yes, it was. I was one of those people once. I worked in corporate. I was running a small gift box business on the side with a really good friend of mine, two kids under five, partner, an elderly mum, and I was doing all the things. And it was actually only through the separation from the father of my kids that it made me stop and look at my life and go, I am so busy all the time, yet I feel unfulfilled. I actually feel stressed, and I didn't realize it until I started to pay attention to it. And my life wasn't where I wanted it to be. So it was that big shakeup, because going through a separation with kids, it's not for the faint-hearted, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But in hindsight, it was the thing that I needed that really made me wake up and realize that just running around from morning till evening, not making time for food, for nourishing myself, not making time for exercise, not making time to just sit and drink my cup of coffee before it goes cold. I know every parent can relate to this. That's not actually how I want my life to be. So I started to look at, well, what do I want my life to be? I
Yeah.
really started to connect to that, and I realized I actually want to have an extraordinary life. I want to do fun things, but I want to do extraordinary things. And
And that there's
it was the
nothing wrong with wanting that.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
about
and
you,
and
but that was a really big hurdle for me overcoming that concept of
yes,
I'm not selfish for wanting more.
yeah. It's crazy. Just you know, how much shame so many of us carry around wanting something different or wanting to have it all. And you know, wanting to have all the money, but still wanting to have all the time with your family, and you know, wanting to have the career, but still have heaps of time for holiday. We can actually have all of those things. It's just a process to get there, and that process looks very different for all of us because what's important to us as individuals really varies, and what works for us really varies, right? It's like that with diet. Like a diet that works for you, or a way of eating that works for you, Tiffany, might not work the same way for me and for
And vice
everybody else.
versa.
So it's
Yeah.
such an individual journey, and it's about really embracing that and actually loving and accepting that journey. And so many of us don't, because we carry shame that it should be different. We
So much
should want
shame.
different things.
Yeah, that's a
Mm.
really good topic. First, I'll say that no, it wasn't super obvious. However, everyone, no matter what their career path was, there was a triggering moment. When you were a kid, maybe you loved science and you became a scientist, or maybe you had a sick parent and so you went into nursing. Like everyone, whether it's their story or something parallel to their story, impacts the path at which we go down and how we want to go back and serve the world in a career. And so I was just curious. And
Absolutely.
but I do love that concept that you're talking about. You're like, of all of the things, and I know that in my story and with the clients and women that I work with, it's like, I want more. This can't be it, but I can't possibly add one more thing to my to-do list. So, like, that's
Mm.
not a realistic, that's not even a thing for me. Like, this is all I got. This is the bandwidth that there is. And like, I guess this is gonna suck for the rest of my life until something changes. And I'm very curious what your take on that is before I share my take. Like,
Yeah.
what what do you say to the woman who's sitting there going, sounds really nice that you blew up your whole life and went and did what you wanted,
Mm.
but like, I don't have time for that. I got responsibilities. I have this, I have that. Like, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, isn't it crazy, you know, that we sometimes get to points in our lives where we just resign and think this is how it's just going to be. Like it's just normal for me to be stressed out. It's normal for me to not fulfill or to not feel fulfilled. And you know, and I see this time and time again in my clients and in my environment as well, where that has just become the norm. And um, I get that. That again, jumping off that treadmill or thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to add another thing, like even just adding coaching sessions to your calendar, you know, like some people think, oh God, I don't even have time. I don't even have time to brush my
I
hair
don't have
most
time
days.
to
How,
grab the life raft. Like, there is
that's
no
right.
time. I'm drowning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
No,
right.
I've been there. I've been there.
But here is the thing. Here is the thing. Connect to your courage, connect to what actually happens if you continue on this path that you are on. What do you think is going to happen if you keep working over capacity, if you keep doing everything over capacity? What's going to happen to your health? What's going to happen to your mental health, to how you feel about life? How are you going to start parenting your children? How's that going to affect your relationship? Like, what is actually the long-term repercussion of staying on this treadmill?
Yeah.
And what are the possibilities when you get off? What are the possibilities? And if you don't know what the possibilities are, that's okay as well. Because you know that's a discovery, that's an adventure to go on. But just think about what's the long-term repercussion, because it is not possible for any of us to sustain such a lifestyle. It's estimated that we spend, and in the modern world, we spend roughly around 70% of our time in stress mode. So that means our nervous system activated. That means our body is overfiring. Our nervous system is overfiring. That's an incredible amount of time, like 70% of our waking time,
And then compound
right?
that over 20 years, and
Yeah,
no wonder you're so tired
yeah.
and exhausted, and a vacation
Chronic
doesn't fix that.
diseases. I
Hmm.
really truly believe that stress and our busy lifestyle is the number one reason for the chronic diseases and the health issues that we are now seeing rise in our society, no matter which country you are in, right? And when I say, because stress and the way our life is structured impacts our food choices, it impacts our sleep, it impacts our relationships, it impacts everything that we do and that we don't do.
Yeah,
And it's I believe it's one of our biggest killers, if
I
not
agree with
the
you.
biggest killer. And I think it's a huge reality we have to face. But the cool thing is it's something that we actually can change as individuals. But we need to know that we have that choice. And I think a lot of us think we don't have that choice.
And I think it's really cool. So, like, there's a few things that come to mind for me, which is one, for the person who's like, I don't have the bandwidth to do anything more than what I'm already doing. The first thing I really recommend is kind of like Sophie was saying, like, what do you want? Map out what that looks like, because there are things that you're doing that are taking up space on your calendar that you should not be doing. So it's not a matter of doing more, it's getting super intentional
Mhm.
about the things that you say yes to and saying
Yes.
no, even if it hurts someone's feelings, even if it's uncomfortable, to the things that are not meant for you. Because
Yeah.
if you're not there, then what value are you adding anyway? Like, no one wants to be around a cranky woman who's exhausted and feels like she's the martyr of the world. Like, no one wants that energy. So, like, stop trying. Stop going down that path. You're just setting yourself up for failure. And then it's like that dance of, like, I believe that we do need some level of stress and pressure to be really creative and to go after some things, because if there was no stress or pressure, like, we'd all just fall into this like blob of I don't know what. That blob state, that when you're in recovery you need to slow down and be nothing and have no stress. But then there comes that point where, like, you do need a little bit of pressure to get a little uncomfortable to go do things you've never done before. And I think that's a much healthier version of stress, because it's controlled
Yeah.
and there's an outcome and it's not just like the world dumping on you.
Yeah.
Those were just some things that came to mind while you were talking.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think that in terms of getting off that treadmill, I love how you put that. It's about being more intentional. But I think before we can start being intentional and start making those decisions, it's really important to allow ourselves to stop and
Yes.
to remember that actually our life will not fall apart if we stop for a day or even a week. It's not going to fall apart. It's a myth. The world keeps going and everything
It's
else
our
will keep
ego.
going, right?
Our ego doesn't
And
like that.
that's right. But it's not true. It's not actually true. And so really stopping and allowing ourselves to see what we have in front of us in front of us. And then what I like to call go through some decluttering. Right? Decluttering, like I actually sometimes get my clients to declutter their homes as we're doing the work together, because I find as we declutter our homes, we start to kickstart or we kickstart internal conversations, and we start to realize actually internally there's some things we want to get rid of, right? Is there some beliefs we want to get rid of? Is there a specific mindset that we want to get rid of? Is there a behavior we actually realize that's not serving us, right? Whether
I
it's
love that.
overeating or smoking or not going to the gym or whatever your behavior is, and starting to make some space in our lives, and then allowing ourselves to be in that space and go, actually, what am I going to do with this space now? Do I want to populate the space with something that brings me joy? Or do I actually want to just keep the space because I love the space, because it's we don't give ourselves spaciousness. I mean, how many of us have a spot in our calendar and we fill it up with something? Oh, something's, somebody can't meet us today, whatever we'd planned, we'll go and do something else instead, right? Do we ever actually stop and sit and go, actually, I'm just going to sit here and have a cup of tea and just enjoy
And
that
just
and
be.
read a book and just enjoy the space?
Yeah, just being.
Yeah.
That was something that was took me a lot of practice to learn, of how to just be. And then I
Mm.
got so good at being, I had to then like relearn how to go again, because I
Yeah.
mean, one of the hardest parts in me de-stressing was One, it was like detaching my ego from what I was actually doing and the accomplishments on the outside and the thoughts of what other people were going to have about me becoming lazy, and just learning how to exist with myself. And
Yeah.
that was really, really uncomfortable because we're just not like, when you're always go, you don't have time to sit with yourself. And then you learn some things, like Sophie was saying, that like maybe you don't really like about yourself. And they're
Yeah.
not things to beat yourself up over, but things that you're like, I need to do some work here. Like, I'd like to improve that. Like, that
Mm.
served me for some reason, but it's not
Yeah.
going to serve me where we're going. And then learning what my own patterns were for when I was productive, when I was most social, when I was really logical, and then structuring my time and space around that so that the people got the best of me in the exchanges that we had. Like, I only record podcasts at very specific times based off of my energy and how I can show up in that conversation rather than what's convenient for everyone else. You know what I mean? And that's really hard to learn, especially when you've just had so much structure your whole life.
Yeah, and I suppose, you know, especially when we haven't drawn those boundaries beforehand and we didn't grow up, you know, or being taught those boundaries, that it's actually okay to say no to things, right? This overcommitting to stuff. I see this in particular in women quite a lot. Because I do think that women are naturally, we're just givers. We want to give and take care of people, and for most of us, obviously that's a gross generalization and everybody has their own flavor to that. But this overcommitting to things, you know, it's absolutely exhausting. And I agree with you with what you're saying, is that when we learn how to be and how to stop, that we then almost need to rewire what doing things or what being productive or what being purposeful actually means to us. And I love this idea from Tony Robbins. You know, I think it's something that he said, that success leaves clues. And even though I'm not someone who says dwell in the past, but I do think that the past is a radical place to look for success. What has worked for us in the past, right? What has given us results, or the results that we want in the past? And can we try that again in the now? And does it still work for us? And if it does work, amazing. If it doesn't, you know, okay, that's not the right thing for me anymore. I'm going to try something different. And it's like, because I have my own coach as well. So my own coach said to me the other day, just nerd it out, Sophie. Just nerd it out. Put your nerd hat on and see it as an adventure, and try and figure out as almost like a scientific experiment. Trying things out, and learning to be okay with that whatever we do may not necessarily be the thing that we're going to do for the rest of our lives. It may just be the thing that we do right now. And then it will shift and change. And it's I think yeah, I think working on ourselves is such an organic process, and there actually is no right or wrong, which is what I really love about this. There's no right or wrong. There's just what works for you or what doesn't work for you.
And also learning to love and appreciate the woman, even if she was exhausted and got you in this spot where you're like ready for a big change and to do things differently, to love her so hard because she got you through some of the hardest times of your life and she did the best she could with the knowledge that she had. And that's okay. I think women have a really hard time with that concept because we want to beat
Mhm.
ourselves up that we're the reason we got overworked. We're the reason we lost our bodies and that we don't feel good in our own skin. And it's like, you did the best you could with what you had. Like, let's figure out what you're gonna do next.
Yes. Yeah, it's you're right, Tiffany. It's that self-acceptance and accepting that, you know, where we are right now is exactly where we need to be. Yes, we could have done things differently in the past, and we didn't. And that's okay.
It's
And I really
okay.
think that, you know, I went through this with a separation where I started to, I went through this process of first blaming my ex for everything. And then when I started to step back and go, actually, there was a lot of stuff that I contributed. And what ended up happening is that I went into self-loathing and thinking, wow, I didn't see how much I actually really contributed to this mess of our relationship. And it's really easy to get stuck in that self-loathing, to get stuck in that space of like, I really screwed up here. And but that doesn't serve us. And again, it's that, it's that pendulum swing, right? Like either we're the victim and the other person did it, or we're going the other way and we're like, no, we did it, and now we've gone to this pendulum swing. And I see this so much in relationships and my work as well, how we go from one thing to the absolute opposite end of the scale. And sometimes that's a necessary part in our journey as well, because it's
Sometimes it
good to
is
know,
very
right?
much. And you're like,
Yeah,
gosh darn it. But it's part of the healing journey to find the middle.
yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's okay. Like it's honestly like humans are messy. We are messy with our emotions, and it's actually another friend of mine who says, I am messy and I am made at the same time. And I really love that.
I'm
That we
writing that
get to be
down.
messy. That's great. I am messy and I am made at the same time. And it's this idea that we don't have to be perfect in everything, as long as we keep showing up and keep doing our best, right? Because that's what we tell our children, but funnily enough, we don't
We're
uphold
not
those
showing them
things
how that
ourselves.
works.
Yeah. Just show up and do your best and allow the process to be messy. You will figure it out. Because that's the amazing resilient human being that you already are, because that being got you to this place, and you have 100% success rate at everything you've done in your life because you're here.
I
And
love
I,
that.
I I love that approach, and I think it's really important to see that actually we're already amazing. Is there stuff to improve? Absolutely, but there
Always.
always is, always. Yeah,
Because you're always every day you're evolving into a new person. You get new information. You learn that maybe
yeah,
the way you thought the way the world should work is no longer aligned with like what you know now. And it's okay in
yeah,
that. I love that you share that like it's messy. I feel like in the world of health and wellness that there's just like we gloss over it. Like people say, "Oh, it wasn't a straight line," but we never really dive into what that really means for people to actually relate to. So they feel like they're broken. They're like, I see this person, they were here and now they're here. And like, what's wrong with me? Because I've been
yeah,
doing it just as long as they have or longer. What's wrong with me? Why am I not getting it? Do you
yeah.
mind sharing some of like the messy, hard things that like caught you off guard in your path to finding this like centered version of yourself?
Yeah, I think I loved how you pointed that out, because especially in the online world, it's that thing of we compare our inadequacies to the other person's highlight reel, right? And we see, as you say, we see these coaches and we see other people who've gone from here to here and they have this amazing story. But what we don't see is that their story is a squiggle. They didn't go from here to here. They went here and up and down and left and right and back and forward and so on, right? Like for example, my morning routine. I'm a big believer in morning routines and how we start off our day. It sets us up for the entire rest of our day. And it's a nourishing time just for ourselves. It's a time just for us, and everybody that I know, whether they're clients or people in my environment who have implemented that, have found this to be a real game changer. But in terms of my morning routines, I really struggled with it for a really long time, because I knew that it was doing me really good. And I knew that if I was doing it consistently, it created a stacking effect. And not just did I feel great, but like my body started to change in ways that I just really loved. I felt sexy and beautiful. I felt calm. Nothing could rock my world. And then the school holidays would happen, and I would stop my morning routine and go back into the old, man, I wish I was doing this. I know that I need to do this, but I just don't have the time. How can I do this with my kids? Like, how can I fit it all in? And I did this back and forth for many, many years. And I still now, even though I have a really solid morning routine, there are some days where I just don't do it because I think, fuck it, I'm actually just going to lie. Excuse me, just totally swore. I'm just going to lie in bed and I'm just going to play a game with my daughter, which is totally not something that I do, because I'm a no screens for the first hour of my day at least. But I just sometimes I go, screw it. That's what I'm going to do. And I know I'm going to start off my morning routine again the next day. So it's just understanding that if we don't do something 1 or 2 days or for a week or a month, it doesn't mean we've failed. It just means that we've gone on a squiggle. And it's the power that comes with that is realizing actually we can just redirect to what we actually want to do. So just keep redirecting. And the more you redirect it back to the thing that you want, just like whether it's healthy eating, right? If you had a cheat day and you ended up eating a whole lot of cake, even though you said you were going to eat less, it's okay. Do it again the next day because that's what defines you is your resilience and your willingness to just keep trying and keep trying. And the only sure way how you're going to lock in what we consider failure is if you stop trying.
I always tell myself
It's
when if I catch myself in one of those beat up loops where it's like, God damn it, Tiffany, like you said you were like
yeah,
you know better, or like this is not aligned with where you're going. I just I like pause and I'm like, I'm practicing. Like I didn't do great at that today. I'm practicing. I can do better tomorrow and try again. And that
yeah,
mindset shift of I don't have to get it right every single time, but recognizing that like I'm practicing a habit, I'm practicing a new skill, I'm practicing a new way of being, and
mm,
allowing that to give me grace in being messy. Because I'm not
yeah.
supposed, when you're practicing something, it's not supposed to be 1,000% all the time.
Well, and it doesn't have to be, like we have this perception. I once saw this little drawing that someone had made, right? We have this expectation that we give 100% every day. That this is what we're expecting ourselves, give 100% every day. The reality is that some days we give 70, some days we give 100, sometimes we only have 30. Every day is different. Our capacity for things changes depending on, what happened the day or the week before. And sometimes things happen in our environment that are uncontrollable, and like COVID, right? Like being in lockdown, like that was so hard for so many of us. I don't know what it was like for you guys, but we had one lockdown that was 3 months long. And it was just, like some days, even though I suppose we really enjoyed it to a degree because we just got to hang out and have fun and we made the best of it. There were some days where we were over it and, you know, didn't get up and do my morning routine, or we did eat a whole lot of cake, or our favorite cookies, or made pies and just pigged out
As
on
you
that.
should,
And
those are joys in
it's
life.
okay. Yes, and it's okay. So this pressure that we're putting ourselves to always be perfect at 100% every day is not realistic, and it's not the reality of the ebb and flow of life. We have
So
night
true.
and day, we have hot and cold. As women, we go through cycles. I mean, you just look at our hormones, the way they cycle through, and it's just we are not designed to give 100% every day, yet we have
It's so
created a
true.
world where this is almost, silently expected, or we think it is silently
Because the
expected
world
of
is
us.
running 100 every second of the
Yeah.
day. And at the same time, I love that that you brought up the concept of like giving the 100%. There's so many times that especially women, it's like if I can't give 100, there's no point in doing anything. And it's like if you were just giving even just 30% effort to the things that you say that you want or the things that you want to change, you would make so much progress over 6 months,
Yeah.
12 months than you would if you went 100 for a week here and zero for another month and then 100 for like a few days there. Like if you just do 30% better than you did yesterday, like most days, you're going to find this like peace and calm and harmony in your life that's going to feel so good, and you're going to feel energized and like you're on top of the world, and you're like, that wasn't that hard. Why did I make it so hard?
Yeah. Absolutely. Like even it says it in the book Atomic Habits.
Oh,
It's
such a
actually
good
one thing
book.
it's a great book, and I love the concept that he states in there, which is that concept of just improving one thing by 1% every day. And if you do this for a whole year, or you do this for a whole month, you'll be improving by 30%. If you do this for a whole year, you improve by 365%. And it really is about the small things and just taking an extra action or an improved action every single day and allowing that really looking long term rather than, right, we're going to create the amazing summer body in the next, whatever, 60 days, right? Like we
The
get to,
next 30
I don't
seconds,
know,
be
but
real.
yeah,
The
yeah,
next
right.
30
We
seconds,
get
okay?
to, we get to 3 months before summer and then we go, right, I got to go and shape my summer body now. Whereas looking at actually what can I do for myself throughout the entire year that makes me feel good within my body? Because to me, that's what health is. When you feel good within yourself about who you are, what you are doing, and how you are showing up in the world. To me, that is true health. And when you operate like that, you will have a body you love. You will eat the foods that are nourishing to you because you just love yourself. Like, I know it sounds corny, but it really is like that.
I'm so glad. I was just about to ask you, like, what does healthy mean to you? I love that you shared that. And it's like you don't have to worry about a summer body because you're living in a body that is yours, that you're proud of every single
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to look like the person who just spent the last 90 days shredding up for the cover of that magazine that you're
Mm.
looking at, going, God, I wish I looked like that. Like, that's such a very specific, dialed in process that as an everyday woman, you don't need that nonsense. It's
No,
not, and they'll tell you it's not sustainable, it's not realistic. That was for a photo shoot, and like now I'm gonna go live my life.
definitely. And the thing is, one thing that I find the most when I see attractive people or people that I am attracted to, they have this thing about them. They have this energy about them. They have this glow about them, and it comes from the inside. Like there is plenty of beautiful people out there, but if you don't have the light to match that, your level of attraction isn't the same. So I think it's being attractive and being healthy and all those things actually comes from within. And when you are proud and are proud of yourself and who you are and how you show up in everyday life, people are going to notice that and people will want to spend time with you and you will have a whole new zest for life. And this is why I call myself a vitality coach, because that is what I want for people. I want people to burst with vitality at the seams. I want them to have all this energy coming out from the inside because I know that's where the magic happens in our lives.
And
When we really
emulate
wear this fountain of vitality.
you emulate that really, really well because while if you're watching us on YouTube right now, like you can only see from like the chest up, right? You can see her necklace and you can see her face and her shoulders. And when we hopped on Zoom, my first impressions of you was like, this woman is truly healthy from the inside out. And I can't see anything other than your shoulder caps. But it's because of the way you're holding yourself. You glow, like you just look like you are healthy mind, body, and spirit, and it has nothing to do with the size or shape of your body. It's just the way you presented yourself when we turned on the camera.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Right? Like, isn't that so cool that like that can I can feel that through the screen without knowing anything about, I don't know how tall you are, I don't know like what you weigh or any of those things because they don't matter at the end of the day.
Mhm.
They don't matter. But I can tell that you feel good in your own body and that you take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
so good. I
do.
got
And
goosebumps.
thank you. Same. And I think it's so beautiful that we can have this conversation and really start to shift the paradigms around that, around what health means, around what vitality means, around what really enriches us and allows us to live the life that all of us want. Because really all of us want to thrive. All of us want to be happy. All of us want to have great relationships.
Yes.
We all really want the same. Like we're all
No one
in the
wants to feel like
same
a
boat.
dumpster fire.
That's right. That's right. But some of us just content with that and just think that that's how it is, and that's just, or there's something wrong with them, and that's just who they are. But you get to choose who you want to be and how you want to show up in this world. And I think that's where the beauty comes in, is really understanding that you have a choice, and what choice are you going to make? What choices do you want to make?
Oh, so
It really
good.
comes down to
You've
that.
been such a gift. Well, we wrap up. Is there anything that was left on your heart that you wanted to share that we didn't touch on, or just like maybe a life motto that someone can like carry with them throughout the rest of their day to help them move forward?
A life motto. I like that. I suppose for me, it's the way I start my day every day is thinking, how can I have joy today? How can I have deep connections today? How can I have something that enriches me? Or how can I create something that really enriches me? And really making a point of that. As I said, I really truly believe life is there to be enjoyed and we all deserve to thrive. Absolutely. Every single person. So, what can we create for ourselves every day that makes us belly laugh, that makes us feel content, that makes it just gives us something, makes us feel nourished in one way or the other. And it can be simple things like if you're a new mum, if it's having a 10-minute shower uninterrupted, then that is it, right? If it's drinking your cup of coffee without getting cold, if it's cooking a beautiful meal for yourself just because you can, if it's going for a walk in nature, then do that. And if it's reading a book, or it can just be simple things, or watching a documentary, or doing something you've wanted to do for a really long time. It doesn't matter what it is, just anything that lights you up from the inside out, and do that every day. And even if it's just a small thing, and watch how it will transform your life.
Oh, so good. How do people connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is actually through Facebook, through my profile, Sophie Kaiser, or at Sophie K Coaching. But I also have a website, which is sophiek.co.nz as well.
Cool.
Yeah. So just, I think the best way is just reach out to me, have a conversation. I love having conversations with people, and it's always a no strings attached conversation. Maybe you don't want to work with me, you don't have to work with me. And there's never that pressure there. But I really believe that we're on this earth to enrich each other. So let's have a conversation, let's have a chat, and yeah,
Be
and
two
enrich each other.
humans and get to talking, like for
Yeah,
real.
that's right.
Oh, so good.
That's right.
Thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
on this show this week. And with that, that's Two Humans Talking. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.